I used to think the cheapest thing in my mother's will was the only thing she believed I deserved. My brother Owen got the house, the little blue house on Maple Ridge, with the cracked front steps, the kitchen window that fogged every winter, and the basement shelves my father built before he left. My sister Kelly got Mom's life insurance payout and the jewelry box from the dresser. The lawyer read those parts like everyone already knew where the valuable things were supposed to go. Then he got to me. "To my daughter Dana," he said, "I leave my Christmas ornament box and everything inside it." That was it. Owen looked down at his phone, but I saw the corner of his mouth move. Kelly touched my wrist and whispered, "Mom knew Christmas meant a lot to you," in that soft voice people use when they are trying to make pity sound like kindness. I nodded because that was what I had been trained to do in my family. Nod, smile, make it easier for everybody else. Nobody in that office mentioned the winter I drove across Minneapolis in a snowstorm because Mom said her chest felt tight. Nobody mentioned the pharmacy runs, the insurance calls, the nights I sat in the emergency room under fluorescent lights while Owen texted, "Keep me posted," and Kelly sent heart emojis from 2 suburbs away. Nobody mentioned the months when Mom's electric bill or mortgage shortage quietly became my problem because I was closer and because I was the one who always answered. They only saw what they had decided I was. Dana, the divorced daughter in the rented apartment. Dana, the single mom with the old car. Dana, the one who could never quite get ahead. So when I inherited a battered green box of ornaments, it felt less like a gift and more like a final label. After the reading, Owen told me I needed to pick it up by Saturday. He wanted the basement cleared before the contractor came to look at the house. Kelly told me I could make a sweet little memory tree for Lily, my daughter, as if grief could be arranged neatly on plastic branches and plugged into a wall. That night, Lily helped me carry the box into our apartment. It was colder inside than it should have been, because the heat only worked when it felt like it. We sat on the living room floor with a trash bag, a towel, and a silence neither of us knew how to fill. Most of the ornaments were cheap glass, the kind sold in packs at discount stores. Some had my name written on them in fading marker, some had Owen's. Some had Kelly's. A few were wrapped so carefully in tissue paper that I almost set them aside without looking. Then one slipped from my hand. It hit the floor and shattered before I could catch it. Lily jumped. I told her to stay back because of the glass, but something was lying among the red shards, folded into a square so small I almost thought it was part of the ornament lining. I picked it up. It was a money order receipt from 7 years earlier, $275. Sent by me, paid to my mother's mortgage company. I stared at my own name until the room seemed to tilt. Then I looked back at the box. For the first time, I understood my mother had not left me Christmas decorations. She had left me proof. The morning after the will reading, I went back to work because that was what I did when things hurt too much to name. At 8:15, I unlocked the front door of Northview Dental, turned on the waiting room lights, and listened to the heater cough through the ceiling vents. The office smelled like mint polish and burnt coffee. I checked the voicemail, printed the schedule, and wrote 3 insurance notes before anyone else arrived. Routine was easier than grief. Routine did not ask why my mother had left me a cardboard box while my brother got the house. My life had always looked smaller from the outside than it felt from the inside. I rented a 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of a building where the stairwell light flickered and the laundry machines ate quarters. My car was 12 years old and made a clicking sound when the temperature dropped below 20. My daughter Lily and I planned grocery trips around coupons, gas prices, and which bills could wait until Friday. Owen called that poor planning. Kelly called it a hard season, even though my hard season had lasted most of Lily's childhood. They never said those things cruelly enough for anyone else to notice. That was the gift my family had mastered. Owen could make judgment sound like advice. Kelly could make pity sound like concern, and I could make silence look like agreement, because I'd been doing it since I was old enough to understand that arguing only made the room colder. Mom's house sat on Maple Ridge, 15 minutes from my apartment if the roads were clear. For the last 8 years, I had known every loose step, every sticking window, every weird sound the furnace made before it quit. I knew where she kept the extra heart medication, which pharmacy tech would stay 5 minutes late, and how to talk her down when another envelope marked past due arrived in the mail.
But at family dinners, Owen was the responsible one because he talked about property taxes and market value. Kelly was the generous one because she brought scented candles and soft blankets with ribbon around them. I was the one who washed dishes, packed leftovers, and took Mom's blood pressure before driving home in the dark.
Nobody called that responsible. A week before Christmas, Owen sent a group text. "We need to clear Mom's basement Saturday. Contractor coming Monday. Dana, you should take the ornaments since those are yours now." Those are yours now. I stared at the words during my lunch break, a plastic container of noodles cooling in front of me. Kelly replied with a red heart and wrote, "Mom would love knowing you'll keep the Christmas lists." I almost typed, "Mom loved knowing I kept a lot more than that." Instead, I wrote, "I'll be there at 10. On Saturday, Owen had already put painter's tape labels on the basement wall. Sell, donate, trash. He moved through Mom's things like a man sorting inventory. Kelly stood near the stairs with a scarf wrapped around her neck, choosing framed photos and asking if I remembered which ornaments were handmade. The green box was on the top shelf, pushed behind old wreaths and a cracked plastic angel. I had to stand on a chair to reach it. "Careful," Owen said. "Most of that stuff is probably broken anyway." The box was lighter than I remembered. And for some reason, that bothered me before I knew why. I did not sleep after that first receipt. I waited until Lily went to bed, then I spread a towel across the kitchen table and carried the ornament box over like it might break open on its own. The apartment was quiet except for the radiator ticking under the window. I kept seeing my name on that money order, my own handwriting on the carbon copy. The mortgage company printed it in black letters at the top. At first, I told myself it had to be one payment, one bad month. One time, Mom had been embarrassed enough to hide the proof inside a Christmas ornament instead of throwing it away.
Then I picked up a silver ball and heard paper shift inside.
I did not smash it. I slid a butter knife under the metal cap and worked slowly until the glue gave way. A folded receipt slipped out and landed on the towel. $89.40 paid to Lakeview Pharmacy. I remembered that one. Mom had called me from her kitchen and said her prescription cost more than she expected. I had been standing in a grocery aisle with Lily beside me, holding a box of cereal we did not buy that week.
The next ornament was green, with glitter peeling around the middle. Inside was an electric shutoff notice with a sticky note in Mom's handwriting.
Dana covered this. Do not let Owen say she didn't.
My throat closed around the words. I opened in another, then another. I stopped being careful about hoping I was wrong and started arranging everything by year. $275 for the mortgage shortage, $140 for the heat bill, $500 toward the roof patch after the March thaw, $65 for heart medication, $300 for the furnace deposit. Small numbers, Owen would have said. Nothing dramatic, nothing worth tearing up a family over.
But they were not small when I remembered what they had cost.
The roof patch was the summer Lily wanted to go to art camp, and I told her registration had filled up. It had not. The furnace deposit was the month I drove on bald tires because Mom was afraid Owen would lecture her about maintenance. The heat bill was the week Kelly posted pictures from a spa weekend and texted me, "You're so good with Mom. I don't know how you do it." I knew how I did it. I did it by not buying the coat I needed, by taking extra hours at the dental office, by telling Lily, maybe next time, until next time became the way she expected life to answer us. Around midnight, Lily came out of her room and stopped at the edge of the kitchen. "Mom," she said, looking at the rows of receipts, "is this why we never had enough?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to protect my mother, even then. But the papers were spread between us, and my daughter was old enough to recognize a lie dressed up as kindness. "It's part of why," I said. She picked up one receipt, read the date, and her face changed. That was the winter concert trip. I nodded. She put it down carefully, like it was heavier than paper. That was when I understood what the ornament box really held. Not money, not even proof, not yet. It held the years my family had taught me to call sacrifice, while everyone else called it my problem.
By morning, the kitchen table looked less like Christmas and more like evidence.
I had receipts in rows, grouped by year. I had Mom's sticky notes beside them, flattened under coffee mugs so they would not curl back into the shapes they had kept inside those ornaments. I had a legal pad full of dates, amounts, and memories I wished I did not have to measure in dollars. But I knew better than to call Owen with shaking hands and a broken heart.
Owen knew how to win emotional arguments by making them sound practical. If I came at him with anger, he would call it grief. If I cried, he would call it stress. If I accused him, he would say I had always been sensitive about money.
So I made a timeline. Lily sat across from me before school, typing while I read from the receipts. January 12, I said, $140, electric bill. She typed it into the spreadsheet, date, amount, purpose, proof. March 4, $500, roof patch deposit.
Lily paused. That was when my art camp money disappeared.
I looked up.
She did not say it cruelly. That was worse. She said it like a fact she had just learned how to name.
I'm sorry, I said.
I know, she said, keep going.
After she left, I called the mortgage company. They could not tell me much because the account had been in my mother's name, but when I gave them the dates and payment amounts, the woman on the phone went quiet for a moment and said, "Those do appear to match payments received."
It was not a victory. It was not even proof enough by itself, but it was a door opening an inch.
Next, I called a nonprofit financial counseling office downtown. A woman named Marisol listened while I explained the ornament box, the receipts, the will, and the house Owen had inherited. She did not gasp. She did not tell me I was right. She said, "Bring copies of everything. Originals stay with you."
That was the first sensible thing anyone had said to me since my mother died. That afternoon, I went back to Mom's house. Owen was in the kitchen with a measuring tape clipped to his belt, talking about refinishing the floors before listing. Kelly was wrapping dishes in newspaper. I need to look in the basement again, I said. Owen's eyes narrowed. For what? Anything Mom left with the Christmas things. You already took your box. Then this won't take long. He opened his mouth, but Kelly said, "Let her look, Owen."
The basement smelled like dust and cold concrete. Behind the old wreaths, exactly where I remembered seeing it, was a yellow envelope taped to the underside of the shelf. My name was written across the front.
For Dana, if I run out of courage. I sat on the bottom step to read it.
Mom's letter was not dramatic. That almost made it hurt more. She wrote that she had meant to tell Owen and Kelly how much I had paid, how many times I had kept the lights on, how often I had said, "Don't worry about it," when she knew I should have worried. She wrote that she was ashamed she had let me carry the quiet bills because I was the child who would not punish her for needing help.
Then one line stopped me. Proof matters when people have already decided who you are. I folded the letter with both hands. That night, I made copies, scanned every receipt, and emailed Owen and Kelly one calm paragraph. I told them I had found financial records in the ornament box. I told them I was consulting someone before the house moved forward. I told them not to remove or destroy any papers from Mom's house. Then I wrote the sentence my hands shook over. I am not asking for a fight. I am asking for the story to stop being told without the facts. The meeting did not happen in a courtroom. There was no judge, no dramatic objection, no moment where Owen was forced to confess anything under bright lights. It happened in a plain conference room with beige walls, a pot of burnt coffee, and a mediator who kept reminding us to speak one at a time. That was probably better. Real life rarely gives you a scene big enough for all the hurt you bring into it. I sat with my folder in front of me. Copies of the receipts, copies of Mom's notes, the spreadsheet Lily had helped me build, the letter from the basement folded inside a plastic sleeve because I could not bear the thought of coffee spilling on the only apology my mother had managed to leave behind. Owen sat across from me with his arms crossed. Kelly sat beside him, quiet in a way I had never seen from her before. The mediator started with the facts, documented payments, dates, amounts, utilities, mortgage shortages, property tax installments, repairs that helped preserve the house Owen had inherited. She did not call anyone selfish. She did not call me generous. She simply read the numbers until the room had nowhere to put them. Owen leaned back. She helped Mom because she wanted to. That doesn't make it a debt. My old self would have rushed to explain. I would have softened my voice, protected his feelings, made sure no one thought I was greedy. But that woman had been trained by years of being misunderstood. I looked at him and said, maybe not every dollar is a debt, but every dollar is part of the truth. Kelly lowered her eyes. Owen looked away first.
There was no sudden apology, no tears from him, no big speech about how wrong he had been. He argued that the will was clear, and legally he was not wrong. The house was his. Mom had left it to him.
But my attorney explained that some of my payments had gone directly toward preserving that house. If Owen wanted to sell quickly and cleanly, this needed to be resolved before it became a formal dispute. So we settled. Not for everything, not even close.
Some payments were too old, some were too fictional, some were impossible to prove beyond Mom's handwriting and my memory. In the end, Owen agreed to repay part of the documented house expenses through a payment plan tied to the sale. Kelly offered to contribute from the insurance money. She did not make a performance out of it. She just wrote the number down and slid the paper across the table.
When it was over, I did not feel victorious. I felt tired. In the parking lot, snow was falling in small, dry flakes. Kelly followed me to my car and stood there with her coat open, shivering. I don't know how to apologize for all of it, she said. I looked at her for a long moment. Start by not explaining me to people anymore. She nodded. That was all. Maybe it was enough for one day. Owen walked past us without stopping. Then, near his truck, he turned back. I didn't know it was that much, he said. You didn't want to know, I answered. He did not argue. That was the closest thing to honesty he had given me in years. When I got home, Lily was waiting at the kitchen table. She asked if I won. Not like in movies, I said. She thought about that, then asked, was it worth it? I looked at the ornament box sitting on the counter, its corners bent, its tissue paper wrinkled, its broken pieces wrapped carefully in a towel. Yes, I said, because now the story has to include me.
Months later, the first payment helped fix my car. The second went into an emergency fund. Nothing magical happened. I did not become rich. Owen did not become kind overnight. Kelly and I still had awkward silences between us.
But something in me had changed. I stopped confusing peace with silence. That Christmas, Lily and I put up a small tree in our apartment. I hung a few of Mom's repaired ornaments near the front, not because everything was forgiven, but because everything had finally been named. The box had not given me back the years. It gave me the right to say they had mattered.